I was sitting in the back row of a lecture hall, 200 people, 8 a.m., thermodynamics. Not exactly a glamorous moment, but something happened in that room that changed how I think about productivity forever. The professor put a problem on the board, and for the first time in months, I actually understood it. Not because it was easy, because my mind was not somewhere else. I was not mentally calculating how many chapters I still had to cover for another exam. I was not replaying the assignment I forgot to submit last night. I was not running a background process of every deadline I was behind on. I was just there, in the room, thinking about one thing. And I felt this wave hit me. Not stress, not panic, clarity. Like my brain had been underwater for months and someone finally let me breathe. And I realized that moment only existed because I had the bandwidth for it. A semester earlier, that would not have happened. Not because I was not smart enough, because there was no room for it. My schedule was a wall-to-wall negotiation between lectures, assignments, part-time work, and the mental overhead of doing things last minute that should have been organized weeks ago. Actually understanding something in class, not just copying it down to memorize later, that was a luxury I could not afford. Not in time, not in headspace. Here is what changed. I built a system that gave me back 10 to 15 hours a week, and the result was not what I expected. Most people think productivity systems exist to help you get more done. More notes, more study hours, more assignments completed, more marks. And they do. But that is not the real payoff. The real payoff is what happens in the space you create, and by the end of this video, you will never think about your study routine the same way again. Section 1. The productivity lie. Here is a question nobody ever asks about productivity. What are you actually optimizing for? Not philosophically, literally. When you download a study app, buy a new planner, watch a video about morning routines, what is the end goal? You have been told the answer your entire life. Study harder. Do more. Fill every hour with something measurable. If you are not grinding, you are falling behind. But here is what nobody told you. That idea did not come from science. It came from Frederick Winslow Taylor, a mechanical engineer in 1911 who published a book called The Principles of Scientific Management. Taylor did not study human learning or fulfillment. He studied factory workers. His entire framework was built around one question. How do you extract the maximum amount of labor from a human body in a fixed number of hours? Taylor literally stood behind steel workers with a stopwatch and timed how fast they shoveled pig iron. He calculated the exact weight each man should lift per minute to produce the highest tonnage before collapse. Not before satisfaction, before collapse. That is the intellectual ancestor of your study routine. Not Aristotle, not Chanakya, a man with a stopwatch behind a furnace, measuring how close to breaking a human could get and still be useful. And here is the part that should sit with you. Every modern productivity framework still asks Taylor's question in different language. How do I study more in less time? That question assumes the goal is output. It assumes you are a machine with an efficiency problem. You are not. You are a student with a capacity problem, and those are not the same thing. Section 2. What your brain actually loses. In 2010, a Harvard study by Matthew Killingsworth and Daniel Gilbert tracked 2,250 adults in real time using an app that pinged them at random moments throughout the day. It asked three things. What are you doing right now? What are you thinking about right now? How happy are you right now? The finding was devastating. People spent 46.9% of their waking hours thinking about something other than what they were doing. And in every single case, mind wandering made them less happy. Not sometimes, every time. But here is the part that matters more than the headline. The people who were most mentally absent were not lazy people. They were busy people. The ones with the most responsibilities, the most deadlines, the most pressure were the ones whose minds were most consistently somewhere else. Now think about that in a classroom. You are physically in the lecture, your notebook is open, your pen is moving, but your brain is 3 rooms away, running a background loop of the assignment due tomorrow, the chapter you have not started, and the group project nobody is responding to. You are there, but you are not there, and that is not a discipline problem. That is a bandwidth problem. Barbara Fredrickson, a researcher at the University of North Carolina, has spent her career studying positive emotions. Her research identifies something she calls micro moments of positional resonance. 3 things happen at once. You share a positive feeling with another person. Your biochemistry actually syncs up. Heart rate, neural firing patterns, even facial expressions start mirroring. And there is a mutual sense of care. These micro moments are not poetry, they are biology. Fredrickson's data shows they are the primary mechanism through which human connection improves physical health. They strengthen vagal tone, your body's ability to regulate heart rate, calm inflammation, and pull itself out of stress mode. But here is the catch that breaks the whole system open. You cannot have micro moments of resonance when your prefrontal cortex is consumed by task switching and decision fatigue. Presence is not a personality trait. It is a neurological state. And when your operating system is overloaded, that state becomes physiologically impossible. This is why you sit next to your best friend in class and feel alone. This is why you go home after college and your parents ask how your day was, and you say, fine, and you mean nothing by it because you have nothing left to give. You are not cold. You are not ungrateful. Your bandwidth is already spent. The study system that was supposed to give you a better future is the exact thing preventing you from experiencing your present. Section 3. The space nobody optimizes for. Now here is the part that changes everything. When I built the system that gave me back those hours, I was solving for efficiency. I wanted to stop wasting time on things that did not need me. Stop rewriting the same notes 3 times. Stop spending 4 hours on something that should take 1 because I could not focus. I reclaimed roughly 10 to 15 hours a week, but the thing I did not anticipate was what filled the space. It was not more study. It was not another course. It was not an extra certification or a side project to pad my resume. It was more life. Walking to the canteen with a friend and actually laughing instead of mentally rehearsing flashcards. Sitting with my family at dinner and being present instead of calculating how many pages I still had to finish before midnight. Calling a friend I had not spoken to in months, not because I suddenly became a better person, but because I finally had the space to remember that I missed them. Dr. Carol Dweck at Stanford spent 30 years studying what separates people who thrive from people who stay stuck. Her research showed it was not talent, not IQ, not discipline. It was whether people believed their capacity could grow. Most student culture teaches the opposite. It teaches you that time is fixed, energy is fixed, and the only variable is how hard you grind. That is a scarcity frame. And scarcity frames do not produce growth. They produce burnout wearing the mask of ambition. A 2019 American Psychological Association survey found that students aged 18 to 23 reported the highest stress levels of any age group. But the data underneath the headline was more revealing. The highest stress was not correlated with hours studied. It was correlated with perceived lack of control. Students who studied fewer hours with a clear system reported less stress than students who studied more hours in reactive, unstructured panic. The variable was never time. It was bandwidth. And bandwidth is not something you find between 2 deadlines. It is something you build on purpose. Section 4. The only metric that matters. Here is the question nobody in the student productivity space is willing to ask. What is the point of being efficient if efficiency just means you graduate exhausted? That is not a joke. That is the logical conclusion of every system that optimizes for marks and ignores capacity for experience. You clear your backlog, you batch your revision, you time block your calendar, And at the end of it, you have a pristine system, a degree, and 4 years you barely remember living. The real metric is not hours saved, it is moments available. Remember the lecture hall. Nothing dramatic happened. That is the point. No breakthrough, no cinematic montage, nothing that would make a good Instagram post. Just a student in the back row understanding something for the first time in months. And a feeling that only existed because there was room for it to exist. Fredrickson's research showed that people who experience more micro moments of resonance per day do not just feel better, they have measurably stronger immune function, faster recovery from stress, and significantly higher reported life satisfaction. Not because they had better lives on paper, because they had the bandwidth to actually experience the lives they already had. Every productivity video you have watched asks the same question. How do I study more in less time? That is Taylor's question. The stopwatch question. The pig iron question. The right question is this: what becomes possible when you stop being consumed by work that should not require you in the first place? That is the productivity payoff nobody talks about. Not more marks, not a better GPA, not a tighter schedule. The payoff is sitting in a lecture and actually being there, walking with a friend and actually hearing them, going home and actually being home. That is the only metric that has ever mattered, and no planner on earth can give it to you. Only space can. And space is not something you find at the bottom of a to-do list. It is something you build on purpose, or it does not exist at all.